We're just waiting on Tony Tucker today. We're live on the air.
Sorry, guys. I was just checking to see if I got invited to the draft. I didn't. I didn't make the list.
Tony, just a question. I mean, you were checking to see if you were invited to the draft. Like, was there a chance? Was there ever a chance?
I'm just saying that maybe you don't know for sure if my name was on the list or not. I don't check the mail every day. My email's getting a little backed up because, I'm not good with technology, Joe. So I was just seeing maybe at the bottom of the list, alphabetical order, somewhere down between Wilson and Young. I don't know where T falls on there. I don't even know the alphabet. You guys are making me sound like an idiot, and we haven't even started.
This is exactly when we still needed that clip of you in your driveway working out, and your ankle just gave out.
My ankle just snapped in half.
Like,
I still have it. If you guys want to play it sometime.
Football therapist here.
Well, we've done a terrible job. If you're listening to the audio version of this show, this is MJT Football. Welcome in. We are extremely excited to have you. We know there's a lot of choices, and we thank you for giving us a shot here. If you are listening to the audio version, come on over to YouTube and meet Mike, Joe, and Tony. We're three friends who love talking football, but we're always looking for a fourth. So if you smash that subscribe button and the bell, then you'll be notified. You can come hang out. This is our 2.0 mock draft. The previous podcast was the original version. We're switching up the order a little bit today. Joe went from second to first. I went from third to second. You get the picture. And we're going to go through this. Do you guys want to talk any new stuff, or do you just want to hop right into the draft?
I say we fire it up.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Get it going, Tony. I'm on the clock already with the Carolina Panthers, and I'm going to make it real easy for everybody out there because even though I don't agree with the pick, I think this is the overall consensus number one pick, and I don't like – once we start knowing who the number one pick is, I don't like messing with the top of the draft and be like, well, what if they did this? What if they did this? So I'm going to go with quarterback Bryce Young out of Alabama. Not a big surprise here. Not messing with our draft board. It is what it is. Even though me personally, if I was the Carolina Panthers, I'm not taking Bryce Young because you guys already know who I like. But there it is. As the Carolina Panthers and who I think they're taking, Bryce Young is off the board.
I think I agree with you, Joe. We're getting closer and closer to the draft, and the more and more you're hearing that it seems like we can almost lock in Bryce Young at the first overall pick in this year's draft. And I don't know if you guys remember last week, and I think Tony agreed with me, I didn't just draft Bryce Young at number one. I predicted it. It was a spoiler. He's going to be the first overall pick.
As he should be. I think that there's a combination of being really, really good and also like getting somebody who's going to solidify the position for a team that's been looking for a quarterback since what? Jake Delhomme? Like, it's been a long time. I mean, they had Cam Newton, don't get me wrong, but that was it was a very short-lived span of actual success. Mm-hmm. And who knows? Bryce Young may also be in a situation where he needs to stay healthy. Joe, this is really interesting because I believe that Bryce Young will be the first overall pick, and if I was the Panthers, he would be the first overall pick. But now, I am the Houston Texans, and we're seeing all these reports come out where it's like they don't like CJ Stroud, or now there's a report where it's like CJ Stroud is hard to coach, or whatever the dialogue is that's going on here. Houston, I think that I would like to trade out of this position. And I think what's really interesting about this is that we know Indianapolis is desperate for a quarterback, and they seem to be out of the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. If they trade out here, they would really be screwing over the Cardinals, because that's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time. Well, at least the Cardinals will get like a third-round pick or something to flip spots with Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. But now Houston's going to get that pick instead. Joe, if you're interested, are you interested as the controller here in this mock simulation? Are you interested in trading with Houston to come up to number 2? You got to unmute yourself, Joe.
Just year number 3 of doing this, Joe.
With what team?
You would come to number 2 with Indianapolis at number 4.
Hell yeah! Let's do this.
There it is. Joe, you're back on the clock with Indianapolis at 2. And I think that the more that I sit with this, I think Houston is thinking to themselves, Bryce Young is our guy, and if he's not there, we're going to get on the phone on draft day and call Houston and Las Vegas, Atlanta. Like, I think they would call pretty much all the way till Tennessee.
And it's funny because I think Bryce Young is actually in Houston today. Or was it today or yesterday? But either way, he's visiting Houston.
Ooh, interesting.
You guys know that? You guys didn't know that? And now I'm out here just throwing stuff out here?
I did not know that. I saw a report that Stroud was visiting the Panthers, and the report also had that it was a waste of time on there and that Bryce Young is who they're going to take. So I don't know how true these reports are or not. I could see Houston wanting to trade out now that the reports are saying that maybe they aren't necessarily so set on drafting quarterback at this spot. You have the 2nd overall pick. You're not going to get in this position very often. You need to maximize value. And if you're not going to take a quarterback, it'd be smart to trade back, which is why with the next pick, I'm trading back also.
Well, how do we not know? This is, I don't know, one of the drafts that most experts know around this time who's going where, going, and it feels like we're not getting there this year. Like, are teams doing a better job at hiding who they're liking, who they're going to actually select this year?
So this comment right here by Football Therapist, and I think that there's just so many people reporting on things that everything gets cloudy, and there's always major surprises and shocks. None of us saw AJ Brown getting traded on draft day last year. So there are teams that are doing a lot of stuff that we don't know about. But here's the thing. One of the reports that surfaced was the fact that the owner doesn't get along with the agent of CJ Stroud because he's the same agent as Deshaun Watson. Now, to me, that feels like a foolish reason because what if next year you don't get your quarterback this year? And what if next year you're like, he signs Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever. And then you're like, well, we can't he has another quarterback. We're not doing business with this guy. So I think that would be foolish, but I don't really think that they're worried about being the laughing stock. We're talking about Houston.
Yeah, that's true. And then do you guys think, I mean, obviously you guys are the ones doing this trade, so this is probably what you think. Well, you think that Indy would be CJ Stroud's guy over Anthony Richardson at this spot right here? Like, not that they would trade up to draft Anthony Richardson. I think they would draft him at 4 if they were going to draft him. What if they were just cool with Anthony Richardson knowing what Steichen did with Jalen Hurts and they just stay put and draft him, man?
I do think that if it goes 1-2 and they're not getting one of those, I think Anthony Richardson feels like who Shane Steichen might want, but I think the owner would prefer Will Levis.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think at number 2, if Houston really truly believes that they don't want CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever falls to them at number 2, they truly don't want any one of those quarterbacks, I think they're going to get a number of teams that call them. I think Indianapolis is one of them, right? We just saw that, what just happened in here. I think the Raiders would move up for CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. I think Atlanta would move up. Those would be the only way that Atlanta would draft a quarterback this draft would move up. So I think either way, they would have some. If Houston does not want a quarterback, they need to trade out of this spot.
Yes. There's some bad news for Desmond Ridder fans, Tony, that the Falcons, I guess, are looking hard in the quarterback. That means that they're not too confident in the guys they got, huh?
Well, Mike, you heard me explain what happened last time they traded away number 4.
Oh, yeah. It's a made TikTok right there. But, yeah, I think the phone will keep ringing here at the 3rd pick. I'm on the clock with the Cardinals here, and I was looking at what teams it would be. I was thinking about calling Tennessee, and in this scenario, I'm going to say Tennessee's calling and wants to move up. I'm going to say Atlanta's possibly calling and wants to move up. Maybe even the Raiders are like, hey, how much would it cost to move up. But the team I'm trading with is my own team at 6th overall. I think the Lions are going to make a splash in this draft. I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm going to say in mock draft 2.0, it's getting the quarterback of the future. So I'm going to have the Cardinals and the Lions flipping here at 3 and 6. And I'm going to have the Lions take quarterback Anthony Richardson at 3rd overall.
It would be interesting to see if the Cardinals said, "Hey, we'll switch with you, but why don't you send us 18 instead?" And then that way they can get a few extra picks back.
Yeah, so I was thinking about doing that originally, but if the interest is there from other teams, I think the fact that they're at 6 will, I don't know, it'll make the Cardinals take this deal over other deals just because, hey, we're not moving that far back. We could still get Tyree Wilson, you know what I mean, or whoever is going to be there at 6 right now. But I could see that too, Tony. I thought about that because then the Lions could have 2 picks in the top 6, and that would be awesome for them. That would be a massive splash.
Yeah, if they could leave the draft potentially with Anthony Richardson and let's just say edge rusher of their, maybe Jalen Carter, or maybe they do the smart thing and have a backfield with Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson.
Yeah,
I know they signed David Montgomery, but you never can have too many running backs back there,
especially in Detroit where they drop like flies. It seems like every week.
All right, Mike. So you switched out 3 to 6 and drafted Anthony Richardson with the Lions. Is that what I'm hearing? That
is what's happening. That is exactly what's happening, and that would put Houston back on at 4.
Yeah, the Lions. Interestingly, Ty is saying and Ty switched up his thumbnail real quick.
Mid-draft.
That's impressive timing, my friend. With the trade of Okudah, I do think that puts them in the market for a cornerback, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be at number 6 because there's going to be in that 18 range where they're going to be able to get a look at a guy, maybe Deonte Banks, Joey Porter, and I don't know. Emmanuel Forbes doesn't feel like they're kind of a guy, like as you start climbing down that ladder, but maybe.
I'm starting to really like Joey Porter more and more the more I look into him, and he's a guy that will maybe be available for him. So that seems like a fit to the Lions. And keep an eye on what happens and which corner goes first between Christian Gonzalez and Devon Witherspoon, because it's kind of weird with the corners where I know those two are A and B, obviously, but it feels like maybe whichever team prefers one, the next team that needs corner is going to take the other. So just keep an eye on whichever one goes first, and that should signal how far the other one might slide.
Tony got back-to-back picks right now with Houston and Seattle.
I know this is really tough. So I think that if you went back to number 4 in this spot, what is DeMeco Ryans gonna want in this spot? You have Will Anderson and Jalen Carter both on the board right here. I personally would take whatever people are baking into this risk, as if we haven't seen like a lot of other people come in. Like, you're 21 years old, you make some mistakes when you're younger. I would still draft Jalen Carter, but I think that Houston in this spot is going with Will Anderson. I think it feels like what DeMeco Ryans is going to do. Also, the Alabama, he's got every piece of information that he could want with his ties there. So let's go Will Anderson to Houston at number 4. I like that Jordan's back too. And Jordan, are you a Falcons fan, or are you just a football fan who likes what the Falcons are doing? Because I too am a football fan who likes what the Falcons are doing, but I wouldn't call myself a fan of the Falcons.
I want to say he's an Eagles fan.
I'm heavily invested in Desmond Ridder doing well and Taylor Heineke doing well. Harrison is building. Harrison,
he was an Eagles fan.
He's an Eagles fan. Okay.
I'm not sure though.
He likes birds.
Birds. Oh, he's both. We're both right.
I know.
Hey, and the Falcons have been making good moves, and they signed Bud Dupree today, right? So,
I didn't even see that one yet. I like that. That changes up maybe what I thought that they would do in round one. I didn't see that because I have the Falcons for this, and I wrote down Edge as number one, but now maybe that changes up what I do for the Falcons.
Yeah. Well, what do you do for the Seattle Seahawks?
Oh, shit, I forgot I'm here. Seattle Seahawks, what do I have here? I have Edge down at number one. Oh, man. I can't imagine Pete Carroll passing on a guy like Jalen Carter, right? When you could get him in there in your defense. I also believe Pete knows, like, he's got positivity and culture. You got Bobby Wagner. Like, you bring back some fierceness to the Seahawks defense that made them so great. I'm going to go with Jalen Carter to the Seahawks here.
And have you seen the tape on Jalen Carter? It's like a grown man playing peewee football. He's just tossing people around, Tony.
Yeah. And I think Houston could still make that pick at 4 of Jalen Carter there.
Yeah, I know there's a big old question mark, and everybody knows, and ever since the combine when it came out, all his legal issues, I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock. The more and more we get close to it, I think we're fine with his draft stock being in the top 5 still and not going anywhere else.
He's just too good. He's too good to let go anywhere else. He has the potential to be the best defensive tackle in the league here in a couple of years when Aaron Donald retires. And in a place like Seattle, I think that's a dream fit for him too. I don't know if he wants to go live in Washington, but with Pete Carroll there, you got someone that's going to understand, is going to have some patience with you, and going to guide you down the right path. It's a good fit. And I think that of all the teams that he could land in here in this little zone, he could land on each one almost that isn't looking for a quarterback. I think Seattle's his best place for himself as well. Yeah, definitely not Vegas. The Vegas Raiders are probably the worst place for him to land. Oh, man.
And we talked about that. Like, even if Jalen Carter does fall to the Raiders, there's no way I think the Raiders can even take that chance, even being the great talent that he is. Just a couple years removed from the Henry Ruggs situation, they just can't do it.
Yeah, it's still relatively fresh.
So, Mike, I got a question for you. You're right here with Arizona. Arizona has already traded back once. Would they be willing to trade back again?
I think that they would, because I feel like they might be a team that's looking like we could still get a really good, tackle or guard and get more picks. We're not really close to making it happen yet. Who are you thinking about trading up with here, Joe?
It would be a pretty far for you to drop back. You would drop back 11 spots to number 17. Or no, I don't have number 17, so it's not my spot. Never mind.
Never mind.
Joe just wants to put Devin Witherspoon on the Steelers.
Well, with the Cards stay.
To be honest, the more and more I see it, I think they might move to number 9, more than likely, with Chicago, because I can see Chicago moving back again. But the more and more I see it, I just see Pittsburgh jumping into this top 10 somewhere. And I thought I controlled them. That was last draft, so I don't control them this time. But I see Pittsburgh jumping into the top 10 and getting one of these cornerbacks, one of the top 3.
That's what I'm saying. Keep an eye on who goes first, right? Because look, Joe's going to have a pick here with the Raiders. He probably goes corner here. Let's say he takes Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez is sliding. Steelers might trade up. I also think that the Steelers may be just interested in staying put and keeping an eye on Joey Porter, man. Didn't his dad play for the Steelers?
Yes,
I think he's still coaching for him.
Oh, that math adds up to me, and that's right in his range right there.
Isn't he still coaching for him?
I'm not sure about that, but
conflict.
Yeah, Joey Porter Sr. was one of the funnest players to watch in an era of the NFL that does not exist anymore.
Where's Tony? Where's Joey Porter from?
Penn State? What do you mean? Like his college or?
No, not Joey Porter Jr. Where's Joey Porter Sr. from?
Oh, I don't remember that. You're asking me.
Bakersfield shout out.
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh, we didn't need that. We didn't need that.
Just giving a
Anyway.
shout out to Bakersfield, home of all the great prospects.
With the Cardinals here at 6, I traded back from the 4th spot. I think that third spot, if they stay in the 3rd spot, they're going to draft edge rusher. And I think their incentive with trading with the Lions was staying at 6 to still draft edge rusher. So I'm going to go with the big man out of Texas Tech. Kind of has an unknown ceiling. I'm going to go with Tyree Wilson as the Arizona Cardinals pick at 6th overall. I feel like this guy can be a beast in the league very quickly. He's already got as good a bull rush as any edge rusher in the league already, and especially in this draft class. And he's going to develop some moves in the NFL. Teams are going to weaponize this guy's length and athleticism. They're not just going to let him be a bull rusher. He's going to get better with time. Will Anderson might be more ready right now to just hop in and dominate, but I think that Wilson will be dominant one day, and we'll be talking about these guys and comparing them for years to come.
Well, Mike, I was actually gonna hope that Wilson was gonna follow me at number 7, and I was gonna go him with not a cornerback, but I like it. I like what Tyree Wilson's doing, and I like his stock coming up and moving up. And I think we haven't seen his full potential. I think he still can continue to build on his game, and I like it. And good for Arizona with this pick. If Arizona is able to get a couple extra picks and move down and still take Tyree Wilson, I think it's a good draft for him so far.
You guys see the reports that the Lions, I guess, are in love with Tyree Wilson?
I did not see that, but I could definitely see him being a Detroit Lion for sure. I'm not gonna lie, Mike. I was really hoping that he slipped down there to the Falcons at number 8.
So he was going to be one of the next 3 picks for sure.
But either way, he was going. Everybody was looking at him like, yeah, this is the guy we want, just because of the potential that he has, and we've seen it. And the way the NFL is moving towards edge rushers. I mean, we already knew Will Anderson's going to go, and nobody really had a shot. But this is the next guy that you would want.
Wait, Harrison's taking shots at everybody now.
Okay, Harrison. What is this? What is it? Harrison, what do you think about our first overall pick here? You told me that you hated Bryce Young and you never wanted to be a Panther, and now you're about to have to deal with that reality, my friend. How about that? At least I like my quarterback. Okay, I'm not going to start doing this. Anyways, Joe, you're on with the Raiders here, so no pressure.
No pressure. Like I said last time, if I'm sitting here at this spot, I would be shopping this pick and asking anybody who's interested, if anybody is. Last time we didn't find a suitor with the Raiders at number 7. So is anybody interested in coming up to number 7 before I make the pick? That would be because I think the Raiders would be the Raiders are in an interesting situation. Yes, they need to take a good position player here, but they would also be willing to move up or down in the draft because you guys already know they go the Patriot way. And that's what the New England Patriots like to do. So here I would be looking to move up and down.
Yeah.
I would say F it, Joe, and just draft Will Levis, man. Just do it. Pull the trigger.
Yeah, I'm tempted, Joe, with the Titans, but there's a couple players there that I still think are very interesting for me. So I'm gonna stay. Yeah, I'm gonna stay put with my teams that are at least in a range that I want to move up to.
If one of the corners had went already, Joe, I bet you probably could find a suitor. But I think if the Raiders are here and both corners are available, teams are going to wait and see how much that 10th and 11th and 12th and 13th pick is going to cost them and still get the same player. Yeah,
and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking and the Raiders have brought in all 3 cornerbacks. But by the time the draft is here, they're brought in Witherspoon, they're bringing Gonzalez, and they're bringing Joey Porter Jr. So all 3 of them will be coming in for a visit. So I think they're okay with either one of them.
I'll let you think, Joe. Aiden's put this question in a few times. Aiden, appreciate you jumping in the chat here. My top 3 tight ends, I flip back and forth between Kincaid and Washington. They're both like so very different at what they do. I think it would depend on what team you were going to. Like, it wouldn't be very much fun to watch Kincaid on, like, I don't know, the Titans, for example, but it would be great to see him on a team like the Chargers. As to where I think Darnell Washington, I think he's going to help every single team that he goes to. Like, no matter what. Like, even if he just is a blocker, but then a 6'7" athletic weapon in the red zone, like, I don't think that there's a downside. So, for me, I'm going to go Washington, Kincaid, Mayer.
I'm ranking Kincaid, Mayer, Washington, but I feel like you can order it anyway. It just depends on the team's preference and what they need at tight end. I think Kincaid's your best receiver, but he's also a good blocker. I'm starting to realize he's a better blocker than even I realized when I first looked. I think Mayer's your best like tweener, good receiver, really good blocker. Darnell's dominant in the run game, doesn't have the receiving production, but you can just see how he can become a really good receiver still.
Yeah, I think that, Mike, that's the thing that we keep having an issue with, and only time's going to tell, like, how not all of these players from Georgia can hit. but you definitely have to take a shot on drafting these guys, super high. It's just like at Alabama, you'll hear people go, "Oh, players from Alabama bust." It's like, really? Like, I don't know. When you send a large number of players to the NFL, like, some are going to be superstars and some are going to be good NFL players. And I think with Georgia, this run that we've seen, we're going to see a lot of these guys get 5-6 years into their career, and some of them are going to be like, people are going to look back and go, "That guy's a bust." It's like, I don't know. What is it? What is a bust?
Define bust for me, please. Aiden, my favorite tight end of all time is Antonio Gates. Tony, who's your favorite of all time? Shannon Sharp?
Tight end of all time is probably, I don't know. I tend to argue a lot for Shannon Sharp not getting as much love.
There you go.
As he should. But Gates is real close. Gates won me some fantasy championships, so it's right there.
Joe's is Jason Witten. He played for his two favorite teams.
Yes, exactly. I've made the pick. I'm going with Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Illinois. I like Christian Gonzalez a lot more, but it's a mock draft, so I want to see a couple different things. I don't want to go Christian Gonzalez every time here, so I want to see what if the Raiders do like Witherspoon a little bit more. And as a Raider fan, I'm happy with either one of them. If we walk away with either one, I'm good. And I've been saying that for a while. I'll walk away with Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez, so I don't care which one they pick, as long as they pick one of them, and I'm picking one of them right here.
Yeah, I really like this pick, and I'm not gonna lie, Joe. It was Tyree Wilson or Witherspoon when Mike was on the clock with Arizona, and both of them got picked. And now it's like, okay, do I reach on an edge of a player that
I'll tell you this, Tony, while you're thinking and talking, I almost forced a trade with myself. And I almost moved the New York Football Jets up here because I was figuring that they're going to go all in. They're going to try to trade for Aaron Rodgers, right? They're going to try to get that trade done. So why not bring Aaron Rodgers in? And they could have moved up here and took one of the offensive tackles and solidified their offensive line. So I almost made that trade. And then I told myself, no, it's too far for the Raiders to drop back to number 13. So I didn't make that trade, but that was almost something I did, Tony, while you're over there thinking, deciding what you want to do with the Atlanta Falcons. And no pressure, Tony, with the, we do have Jordan Phillips in the house, and Jordan is willing and wanting to know what you're going to do right here.
Yeah. I wish that I would have sat down and done a little more research on their offensive line. I know that they re-signed McGarry, I believe, at tackle. I think that there is going to be some sort of something interesting happening where Taylor Lewan signs as like a tight end. Like, he's going to switch positions and just play like sixth offensive lineman tight end style, where he's not really catching balls, but part of their big packages. He keeps hinting at something weird like that on the podcast. And then the other thing I wish, Jordan, can you tell me just rough percentage? How much did Drake London line up in the slot last year? Like, did Drake London play a lot out of there? Because if he didn't, the player that I think that I'd like to get for this The Falcons? Why are you shaking your head, Mike?
Because you're about to draft a receiver after you roasted Joe for drafting a receiver for the Falcons. The exact same.
Yeah, but
thing.
I roasted Joe for the guy that he drafted, not that he drafted a wide receiver.
I didn't mean to interrupt you with my body
No,
language.
you are. That is good memory, Mike. I did give Joe a hard time for drafting a wide receiver in this.
Oh, trust me, it was ready to come. I was just waiting for you to make the pick.
It was not going to be that guy, because I don't remember him playing in the slot very much. But I think that if they can get somebody that might be able to help them move the chains a little bit more, right? That's always going to get open, and I think that player is. Oh, damn it! I'm gonna do it just because I would like to see him on this team. Jackson Smith and Jigba to the Falcons at number 8. Sorry, George. I hope it's an exciting player at least, right? You're going to get somebody that coming in his rookie year is going to catch 75 to 80 balls in the slot. That's great. And maybe there's a system in which he can take a little bit of pressure off of Kyle Phillips, or I'm sorry, help me out here. Why am I blanking on the Titans? Kyle Pitts. Thank you. I'm already thinking about the Titans slot receiver, but because I got Jackson Smith and Jigma going to the Titans, I'll worry about them later. Kyle Pitts.
Last week by Tony, because I took a wide receiver right here, and I said it's not about the wide receiver. I said it's not about the wide receiver I took. It's everybody has their own preference of wide receiver that they're going to take, and it doesn't matter which one you took. I said the position for the Atlanta Falcons would be wide receiver, and Tony still made fun of me, but now he comes right back the next week and goes, I'm taking a wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. So everybody sees that the need is there.
I think that it could be there. Jackson Smith-Njigba would be a reasonable pick at 8 overall. Just feels like all these receivers are going to make it past like the top 10 picks. And there's no trade suitor, so I'm not blaming you, Tony. Maybe there is one that we don't know about, but they probably would trade that.
When I look at the edge, when I look at the players that are still there, right? So if I want to get a guy like Nolan Smith, who's plays the run really well, grades out against the run really well, and whatever, but didn't have a ton of sack production, or do I want to go Lucas Van Ness in that, but another guy that's like has the production, but maybe still needs a little bit of work? Like, who's somebody that's going to take their offense to another level? And I think it's like getting somebody that you are going to say, this guy's going to get 6 to 7 targets in the slot a game and might be able to open things up for Pitts, moving the ball to Drake London down the field, and then also maybe opening things up for Tyler Algier to take another step this year.
I hope that Algier does, man. He is a tank. All right, I'm on here with the Bears. You guys got any trade interest in this one? Because I'm not 100% sure who I'd take here. There's a couple options. If someone wants to come up to 9 for this corner that is now falling, I'm open to talk. Open the wheel and deal.
Football therapist. I thought about taking Skoronski here too. That's why I said I wish I would have done a little more. Like I wish I had something in my notes about their offensive line.
Peter Skoronski.
No,
I don't think you're going to get any interest, Mike, right now. The Bears have already ripped enough people off when they ripped off Carolina to move back to this spot. I mean, does somebody else want to call their GM and be like, yeah, we're willing to move up. Oh, yeah, let me take your best player too and screw you over for a couple of years.
Ryan Pohl's got them gangsta glasses coming on right now, trying to steal for everybody. But if they stay here and draft, I think they'll take Peter Skoronski. I think that's who they'll take. I think that they'd be interested in trading back and just kind of feeling out the tackles and where they end up landing, especially if they're all on the board at this point at 9 overall. But if they're forced to pick, I think Skoronski's their guy, just simply because of the fact I think he can play all 5 on the line if he needs to. Maybe 4. Maybe can't play center, but definitely could play right guard, right tackle, left tackle, and having that versatility on your line. He's going to start at one position, obviously, but just having that as a guy that can pivot, it's very important and very valuable to NFL teams in today's day and age, where you're starting to see more rotations, and not in the O-line. But I think Philly really showed to the NFL what you can do if you keep your guys fresh out there at all times. So having this guy that can go to guard if someone gets banged up, can go to left, right tackle if players are banged up. It's probably going to start at left tackle. That'd be perfect for them.
Yeah, I think that they hit a home run with Braxton Jones or whatever. It was like a 5th round guy, ended up playing starting for them at left tackle and played really nice. I do think that Skoronski's a great pick, and every person that I listen to, the consensus seems to be he's the best offensive lineman in the draft, right? And then they'll talk to people like offensive line coaches within the NFL, either current or former, and they'll all say Skoronski's the best technique and whatever, but he might need to be pushed into guard. Like he might not be a tackle. But there was an interesting conversation I heard this week about guys with shorter arms used to be a problem because they had trouble keeping away edge rushers like Reggie White, like just bigger guys on the outside. But as the game has become more athletic, they can get away with having shorter arms. They just need to be able to be athletic and quick and have that versatility and still allow, they'll still to be strong and all the other things, but they just don't need to have the 34.5-inch arms to be trying to keep these monsters off their body.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to worry teams in the NFL. We saw it with Sean Slater also when he was coming out. He slid on the board a little bit. I think he even was the second tackle taken in that draft that year. But, yeah, I think that he overcame and showed that if you're a good-ass tackle, you're a good-ass tackle. Like, the arm length does matter for certain matchups, but your technique matters more than anything. And I feel like Peter Skoronski has been dealing with arm length problems his entire career, so he's got to know how to make it work.
He's got the perfect Chicago name, too.
I know, right? Well, isn't he a diehard Packers fan or something? So this is kind of
his grandfather played for Green Bay, I think.
Probably rolling in the grave, huh? Bears.
Well, he went to Northwestern.
Yeah.
So that's in Chicago. So it's like.
There you go. There you go. All right, who's next? Oh, Joe with the Eagles. This is a tough pick, in my opinion, to mock for the Eagles because there's so many ways it could go. They could draft.
And quietly, Northwestern putting out some offensive linemen. Slater, Skoronski within 3 years.
Oh, yeah. It's going to start to become a thing where recruits start going there intentionally because of their coaching.
Well, exactly. But somebody might want to be looking at that offensive line coach and going like, hey, what are we doing here? Let's get the summer camps going because
you're doing pretty good.
So I'm the Eagles. I'm sitting here. It's like the Eagles could take a number of people here, especially on the defensive line, if they wanted to go more and add more to that defensive line that they like to rotate so much. I would be looking to trade back. I'd be looking at there's a lot of things I could be looking to do with the Eagles after they just came from the Super Bowl, right? Now they get the top 10 pick. Like, hey, what can we add to a Super Bowl contending team right here at number 10? And I think
Nolan Smith, Bijan Robinson, or Gonzalez here, football therapist. What are you thinking about
Eagles at 10?
About the Eagles pick here at 10? Both of the last two, Jordan and therapist, both saying they're not fans of Skoronski, which is, I guess, refreshing because every time I hear somebody talk about him, they're like best offensive lineman, like overall best O lineman in the draft. I'm like, all right, I'll take your word for it because I could watch it, but I'm not going to pretend like I can, if Joe Thomas tells me a guy's really good, then I agree with Joe Thomas. Like that's all.
I do a lot of that. I like the opinions of some of those guys. Like watch Steve Smith's opinions on corners. That's a really fun watch. He did a whole thing where he listed a bunch of corners in this year's draft, and it's a really fun watch.
So if I'm, go ahead, you guys. I think I have something, and it might like.
I've got to narrow down to 3 guys for the Eagles at 10 overall. My number 1 is Nolan Smith, just because of that thing. They like to rotate guys in. Guys are getting older, and I think there's going to be some openings in that line for them to rotate him into the rotation and keep that thing going strong. I think the other one that might be a sneaky pick here, they might reach on whichever D tackle they like most, but I think it would be Kalijah Cansey.
Hey. Shh.
And the third one
that's exactly who.
The third one is they throw it all out the window and they just draft Bijan here at 10 overall. That would be the most fun pick too.
See, Mike, you just mentioned two guys that I was really thinking about, Bijan and Clancy. But I think I have the pick. I think Eagles are sitting here and they're like, look, nobody wants to come up. Nobody's trying to give us the offer that we need here. And we're saying, screw it. We're going and we're going to help our defense out and we're going to go Christian Gonzalez. You got to let Christian Gonzalez, a good quarterback, fall to us. We don't need him, but we're going to take him because we're going to take the best player on the board, and that's what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do. Yes, they have Darius Slay. Yes, they have Bradbury there, but why not bring another young guy in that secondary when you know it's a passing league and you need somebody to stop him, and you're going to bring in another hard hitter that you could put anywhere on this defense. So I'm going, why not? If you're sitting there and you're the Eagles and you're like, we have so many options, we could go here, here, and here, but why not take the best guy on the board at Christian Gonzalez because you don't want anybody else coming up and taking him.
I like it. I think that they probably would go offensive line. Like I think they would get Nolan Smith or Van Ness or some like whatever D lineman that they liked. But I'm with it. That would be a beast there. Like no expectations really his first year. Like I don't know whether or not he can play the nickel. His athleticism suggests he probably could do all right at 6'4", playing, like whatever he is, 6'2", 6'3", playing in the slot.
And a lot of teams are playing the 5 DBs now. Like, so the more DBs that you can get to go, especially go along with that defensive line that they already got. And I wanted to go with defensive tackle. I really think that's where they would go to get them, because you saw it last year where they had to go out and get Ndamukong Suh, and who was the other guy they got in the middle of the season to bring in there to run that defensive line. But it's a mock draft, and I'm having fun, and I'm like, nope, I'm throwing some loops in here and not letting you guys come up and get Christian Gonzalez somewhere else.
Well, the thing about the Eagles is, and that's why it's so confusing me, is they can kind of draft best player available at 10 overall. At the same time, there's a few needs, and this could be a need. This isn't necessarily something that they don't need. James Bradbury's 29. Darius Slay's, I think, 32 or 33. He's getting up there in years. And the guys after that is Avonte Maddox and another DB that's kind of like a young and up-and-comer. I forgot his name. So this would be your CB1 in about 2 years. Like, we're not far away from the Eagles needing a cornerback.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just a position that you can tell when there's an injury, it really hurts. Like Mike, we saw Chargers, Jaguars. If Michael Davis doesn't get injured, come on, it's like you just can't lose a big press corner in a game. But if you do lose one, if you lose Bradbury or Slay, and then you could fall, back on Gonzalez, that helps. When you fall back on Jasir Taylor at 5'8", who can't press, who's a good nickel corner, good safety plug-in. But you can't go wrong with falling back on Christian Gonzalez when you and that's almost like not even fair. That's like you beat the Terminator and then Terminator 2 comes running in. You're like, what is this? Like, it can't.
At least
they almost let Slay walk this offseason.
Yeah.
Before they came up with a new deal and some money. So I mean, you got to think that they know that they're hurting back there.
In that situation, this becomes the number one need if Darius Slay is gone. So it makes sense.
I'm thinking they're sitting at number 10 going, we never had a chance at Christian Gonzalez. There's no way that one of these two guys would have fell to us, and he did. So why not?
And Tony, just be happy we got Jasir Taylor in the third corner. Isn't freaking Brendan Fashion or whatever that guy's name was that I had for like 3 years of my life.
No, you know that I'm a big fan of Jasir Taylor, and I think he's going to be good. But a rookie in a playoff game, it's a massive drop off from Michael Davis to Jasir Taylor, and that's not. And had they drafted even just somebody who could have played press there, like if they would have went Zion McCollum or something. I know he didn't have a great rookie year, but just in that they would have went with a bigger corner. Maybe things could have been different because they lack a little size there. Something to think about when pick 21 comes up. Although, have fun with it.
I'm sure I will.
I'm gonna have fun with this Titans one, and people can tell me whether or not this is a terrible scheme fit. I have no idea, but I just want to see Kalijah Cansey play next to Jeffrey Simmons. I think that those two, like playing in the center of your defense, is just really fun. And while I do think the Titans probably could use a wide receiver, right? This is probably the spot where I would think that the guy that Quentin Johnson, big, fast wide receiver, right? So you can maybe play Burks a little bit more in the slot, maybe play him on a few more option routes, different ways to get him the ball. But just, I don't think wide receiver in the first round 2 years in a row. Like, Mike Vrabel, I think, is making this pick, and I believe it's going to be offensive line or defensive line. And maybe that's edge rusher that he really likes. I don't know. Maybe that's, a tackle that he really likes in this spot. But for me, I would go Kalijah Cansey here. We're doing a really bad job of drafting offensive linemen. There's 0% chance that only one offensive lineman goes off the board right here. Like this pick probably should be like, they need a tackle. This pick should probably be Paris Johnson, but I just can't. The idea of seeing Cansey play next to Jeffrey Simmons is really fun to me. So that's what I'm picking.
And this is what people have to remember. Like I hear a lot of people go, I hate mock drafts. Mock drafts don't mean crap. Nobody ever gets graded on. What mock drafts do is create a conversation, and that's it. That's the only thing that we're doing today is creating conversation. Yeah, we know that Tennessee has needs at tackle, and they could take Paris Johnson there. But you're creating the conversation of what if, Tony, and what if you put Cansey and Jeffrey Simmons together, and then you start throwing it in your head. Like how big of an advantage it is to have two big defensive tackles in there and two great defensive tackles. And we haven't seen that in a while, and it would be awesome for them, even though they have other needs. But you never know. When you have a defensive coach that thinks he can you have a running back with Derrick Henry too that just runs the damn ball, and you're going to stop the teams. I like it. I like your team. But that's what mock drafts are here for. I want to remind people that it's just mock drafts are here for a conversation piece.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And Joe Burrow would get sacked 12 times instead of 9 times in a playoff game with Cansey and Simmons in the center. That's what I want to see.
So this is where the Cleveland Browns would be on the pick. Oh, I mean the Houston
Texans, basically the same thing. Yeah, so I'm having a tough time deciding here who the Texans would want to take at this spot. They could be thinking wide receiver, but I personally think if they're not going with quarterback, they're not investing in offense here, or at least wide receiver at 12 overall. I was looking at some of the interior offensive linemen, maybe Osiris Torrance. Didn't they get Kenyon Green recently last year?
Yeah.
Jeremy Tunzel. Who's the guard in between, though? The other guard.
This feels really high for Torrance, though, Mike. Like, why wouldn't they? Like, for me, I know you don't have the tight end, but potentially, like, if you're looking at what George Kittle was for the 49ers offense, but it still feels a little early for that. I don't know. Well, like, do you hate Will Levis or Hendon Hooker in this spot? Like, is that crazy talk?
You had the second overall pick. I mean, I guess if maybe you like the value better at this spot than the value of CJ Stroud at 2 overall. But I think I'm just going to execute a trade then. I don't know who to pick. I don't think the Texans need any specific player in this spot. So I'm going to trade back with myself again. Okay. With the Packers,
all right,
who New England and New York ahead of them, and are trading up to get their future at tackle. He's going to play right tackle right now, though, until he's needed to play left tackle. It's going to be Paris Johnson Jr. to the Packers.
I love it.
I was thinking about Roderick Jones just because for some reason I'm a huge fan of him. But Paris Johnson Jr. seems to be the most versatile and most well-built tackle in this class. They say that Skronski's got the skills. Paris Johnson Jr.'s got the size and the body. So I'm going to go with the guy with the body.
Yeah, there's in the interest of promoting a great podcast to listen to, the guys, I think it's called the NFL Stock Exchange. They did a podcast today on this offensive line, like the top 10. And both those guys were up at the top. Oh, therapists, stick around. It's going to be a fun one. And I think that this is legit who they could pick in the draft.
Well, Mike, I'm kind of mad because you took Johnson. Like, I was sitting there and I was like, I already told you that I thought about moving the Jets up to take Johnson earlier in the draft. And now I was like, wow, they're really going to let him slide to me at number 13. And the New York Jets would be so excited to get Johnson at number 13. And I think that's a great move. Green Bay doesn't draft another wide receiver in the first round. Another story here. Oh man, but man, you just took everything away from me because I was sitting there like, oh, Paris Johnson coming right to the Jets, going to make it easy for me. Like it was like, cool, that's an easy selection for me.
That was the plan.
Now I hate you, Mike. No.
Well, are you taking Broderick Jones?
You could take Broderick Jones or Darnell Wright. It just depends on what kind of coffee you like in the morning. But Broderick Jones, I think this dude's going to be a beast.
You like it strong or stronger? Like they both just seem to be and you can't go wrong. I don't know, like if you're the Jets here, what's stopping you from like just picking somebody defensively? This is what Aaron Rodgers is used to. Defensive head coach. He's been down this. You already signed his boy, Alan Lazard. If you draft it, like offensive line is the only spot on offense where it's really going to make a difference to him. Like if you brought in Dalton Kincaid, he'd be like, I like Uzama and Conklin better.
Yeah.
These are veterans. I like NFL veterans better than rookies.
They're saying Wright in the chat. That's what Brendan said. He likes Wright better than Jones. I can see it. I can see him going for Jones.
Yeah,
There's rumors that Rodgers is also kind of like intentionally telling the Jets like hardball the Packers past the draft, so that way you can make a pick for me. But I don't think the Jets are interested in giving up this pick for Rodgers, anyways.
Yeah, but my thing is like, who is he asking for from this draft? Like, is he asking for?
That's what it said. No, it said tackle. It said he's asked for a tackle.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then I would agree with that. That's a smart decision because we would all love for Mekhi Becton to be healthy and see what the potential looks like for this young man to be on the field and just dominate. Like I want him to stay healthy. Dwayne Brown is the other guy, right? But he's like 36, 37 years old. Elijah Vera Tucker can kick outside, but he's probably better at guard. So I think it would be a great pick. So in my opinion, I hope they don't make it.
Pick someone else.
Yeah, and Joe, I think for this it's great, but I think in real life, I hope that they go like they reach on an edge defender.
I'm gonna take Jones. I'm gonna take Jones right here, Broderick Jones. Might as well. I almost, Mike, this was almost the time that I took Branch, the safety, and I was like, maybe I'll take the safety, go defensive, and then I'm like, no, I think it's a little too early for Branch still. So, and even though I think Jones is going, you always see offensive linemen go a little higher than what we expect, and in this draft we actually see them go lower. So, I was hoping for Paris Johnson. I just go with the second best option in my opinion, in Jones right here.
I think this makes sense too because they obviously need tackle, but also you see Chicago took that first, dip into the offensive lineman water, and now we have a run. And we see that so much in these drafts where a position is sliding because teams are like, oh, he's still there. There's 3 still there. We're good here in a couple picks. But then once you see 1 go and then 2 go, and now people are panicking. Teams are panicking.
Yeah. I agree with that. I do think that there's a little bit of like, hey, we don't want to miss out on this run.
Mhm.
Like we had a chance to maybe be aggressive, but we didn't want to give up some day 2 capital or day 3 capital to move up. And now we need to get one of the few guys that we like in this. And Therapist is right. And I really believe now, guys, that this could be the pick for
No,
the Patriots. Because here's the thing.
no, I know what you're doing.
The Patriots don't care what the rest of the NFL says. The Patriots don't care that PFF says you should never take a position in the first round. They don't care if Cole Strange was 101st on the board for the Rams. They go, and what does Bill Belichick love? His favorite running backs were very versatile. Think back to the Kevin Folks. Even LeGarrette Blount was used in the run game, right? Ramondre Stevenson, a very big dual threat. You lose Damian Harris. What would help out Mac Jones is Bijan Robinson. I don't think there's any chance that if Bill Belichick sees Bijan Robinson on the board with 14, that he passes on the best player potentially from this draft class. Like him, Jalen Carter, Bryce Young, like he's not passing on Bijan. I don't care how many Patriots fans I see in comments go, Brian Branch is the pick. Not over Bijan Robinson. He's not.
This is the worst thing. The worst thing. The worst thing that could happen in my personal bias, Tony. Because for one, now the Chargers can't get Bijan Robinson. For two, now the Cowboys, my secondary team, can't get Bijan Robinson. And for three, you're burying my favorite running back in the NFL right now. All three. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you.
But you understand why I'm saying the pick is what it is here. Like I really believe that if you get to this point in the draft and it's like I could bring in projects because they could use another wide receiver. Like I think there's a couple of good wide receiver fits for this team. You know, like especially if they are going to try and expand Tyquan Thornton using him as a deep threat, could they use somebody to come in the slot like a Jordan Addison at this moment, Zay Flowers at this? Like I think that's another guy that that Belichick would really like. But Bill Belichick's not passing on Bijan Robinson 14. Like I just don't see that.
Are they trading us Ramondre Stevenson?
No. Bring us home to the Lombardi. No, Therapist. I will not.
If this means that Ramondre Stevenson is going to be a Charger, then I'm in, Tony.
Ramondre Stevenson's not going to be a Charger. And, Mike, what's going to end up happening is the Chargers are going to take an edge at 21, and privately you'll celebrate. Publicly you'll celebrate. Privately you'll call me, and you'll be like, what are we doing? What is this? What is it? We got somebody else who's gonna battle Chris Rump for backup snaps at edge rusher.
Mike, there's no way that Robinson was falling to the Chargers anyways. I'm telling you that right now. I was already working in my head of where I was gonna draft him, and I thought about moving up beforehand, and I should have. Now that Tony took it, now I'm like, damn, I should have moved up earlier and took him. So there's no way that he's fallen that far.
I think this is one of the teams where he could be taken here, and I think that the other team that would seriously consider it is maybe Tampa at 19.
Yeah.
Before them, like I know that they like Rachaad White, but why not bring in Bijan in Tampa? I'm not really sure. There's a lot of other teams like. There's 3 backs in Washington right now. Detroit just paid Montgomery, and they have DeAndre Swift on at least one more year, maybe a 5th-year option. I'm not sure how much time he's got left there. Seattle has Ken Walker. So it's like I'm trying to figure out how Bijan cannot be there at 21 because if the Chargers pass on him, I will scream. And I will take myself off camera. If he's on the board and they pass on him at 21, I will scream my face off.
Probably on live TV or live YouTube. That probably will happen.
The betting favorite to draft Bijan.
Interesting. Right. At 9.
I don't.
You're there.
I could see somebody trading 2-8 in that range.
Yeah,
but. Maybe. I mean, Tyler Allgeier just looked so good last year. Does that not mean anything? And the other guy that they drafted too, they had another rookie, Huntley, who was also very effective. He was like 4.5 to 5 yards a carry. And you got, I mean, Cordell Patterson, obviously at this point in his career, I didn't realize this. He's in like year 12 or whatever. Like he's been in the league for a while, but he's still got some good football left, I think. So I don't know that the Falcons, who are going to be playing the Lions in the NFC Championship game, are going to be drafting Bijan in that spot.
So Houston went from 12 to 15, right? With the Green Bay Packers trade. Mike would be on the clock right here. At number 15 with Houston. Mike, I'm asking you if you want to make a trade.
Yeah. I got an offer from Tampa. I'm taking it. So
as of right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are moving up from 19 to 15. Houston playing the draft board, moving back. Smart thing, right? This is a smart thing from Houston. They had 2 first-round picks. They already drafted Will Anderson. Now they're just like, hey, we'll play the board here in the first round. They moved back twice. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are moving up right here, Tony. And you could try to think of what I'm moving up for and who I'm moving up for. And I thought about moving up for Robinson earlier with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that you took Robinson with the New England Patriots, it goes throw all the draft board out. We got one guy left on our first round grades, and we're taking him because we're moving up, and we're not going to let him fall to anybody else. We're afraid that Washington might take him. But here we go. Quarterback Will Levis off the board.
Ooh. There it is.
Love it. Are you guys working this trade in the private chat over here? And I'm just
don't you worry about what we're doing, Tony.
Okay.
Just because we're tech savvy and you're not, and you can't do multiple things at one time.
Guys realize I can't focus on too many things.
Worry about the Steelers.
In the last show, I looked over at one point. There was like 37 comments in the private chat, and I was like, I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm gonna catch up and figure out what's going on.
That's good.
No,
don't you worry about Mike and I. Mike and I got our own little connection. At first, Mike said no. So, Mike, why were you first when I said you want to trade? Did you think I wanted you to drop back farther than 19? Is that what it was?
Yeah. The player that I have my eye on for Houston is still sliding, so I'm just gonna keep waiting it out. If he goes, I have a backup plan. But if I would have went back probably any further than this, I probably wouldn't have been interested. 4 picks though. With these teams, I feel pretty safe.
How's everybody feeling about Will Levis pick right here in the chat?
I like Will Levis in this spot. I like Will Levis more, and if Bruce Arians were to come back.
Just let him
I'm not trying to fire. What's his name?
The recipe for disaster, Tony.
My brain is not working at all right now. But the no risk it, no biscuit guy with Will Levis, that shit's fun. Mike Evans would be like, I can't run go routes.
I don't think Will Levis is good enough to go 30 for 30 like Jameis Winston did, but he is good enough to go like 15 for 15 or 20 for 20, all right?
I disagree. I think Will Levis could push for 40-40. Like, this guy is immaculate. Like, he's fantastic. It might be like 10 fumbles with like 10 rushing downs.
Yeah.
You know, like it might be like 10 touchdowns or like 40 touchdowns to 40 turnovers. Like fumbles and interceptions and rushing and passing touchdowns. But 40-40 club for Will Levis. Let's do it. It'd be fun to watch.
And the whole time I was thinking Tony was on the clock with Washington. It's me. I'm on the clock.
No, it's all good. Will Levis is growing on me for one thing. I think that a lot of times people put out weird shit about people, but when I go back and I watch some of the stuff from the year before where he actually, like, his best wide receiver was Wan'Dale Robinson, there's just something to me that when I watch quarterbacks that are big and strong and smart and athletic, right? I wish he was a little bit more professional, but even if he's not, when you can perform at a level, like a really high level with lesser competition, what happens if I get you into a situation where now you have pros like Godwin and Mike Evans, like they have a good tight end there. There's already one good running back in there. They have a good tackle at Tristan Wirfs. Like, I think I think that would be a good landing spot for him. I think Tampa Bay and the Vikings are a good spot for him. There's a couple. So Seattle's second pick around would be a good spot. Like, let him come in where there's not expectations and just let him compete. I bet you he would surprise a lot of people. Like, he's weird, but I think I'm starting to like him more depending on where he lands.
I will never get over the Mayo thing. But about mentioning the Vikings, keep an eye on them to be a team that potentially trades up if Levis starts to slide. Their GM basically said, he said it in an interview. Like, we want the person who's going to relieve Kirk Cousins to be his backup for a year before he relieves Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is on a 1-year deal this year. He told the whole world, including all of his opponents, like an idiot, that they're going to be going for a quarterback at some point in this draft.
Yeah. This comment by Afix is hilarious, too. He says, can't wait for the 49ers first pick. He's like thinking to 2024 draft.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I can't wait for their first pick in 397 days or whatever, whenever the next draft is.
Their pick's 99 is their first pick.
So I'm the Washington Commanders, right? And we just saw Will Levis go off the board, which I thought maybe that's who they would have took right here. And they said, no, well, we lost out on Will Levis. We lost our quarterback. Maybe we'll take the safety because we have Curl and Forrest as our safeties right now. And we'll help our defense out a little bit. But I'm like, no, we got a new offensive coordinator in town, and we want to give him something else. We want to give him a weapon to go along with it. And why not bring in the first tight end off the board, Kincaid, go into there and given the weapon of a tight end in that offense?
Joe, I love this pick, right? Because everybody keeps saying Dalton Kincaid is Travis Kelce. And if you are telling me that you have a chance to have the guy who coached Travis Kelce for the last 5-6 years is now going to be running an offense in which he's going to say, like, hey, let's watch all of this film, and this is how we deployed him. These are the little tricks of the trade that he did. And maybe he still has a good relationship where he says, hey, I picked this guy. Could you spend a weekend with him and just sort of like start getting him ready on some of the things that he should be looking for in my offense? Because like Travis, even on the most recent podcast with Shannon, he said one of the things that he likes doing is I have all this information. Let's give it to the next generation. Like, he's down for that. And I think Eric Bieniemy could put in a call and say, hey, Kincaid's going to fly to wherever you're partying this weekend. And in between binge drinking and celebrating multiple Super Bowl victories and getting ready to finish behind the Chargers next season, this is a mouthful. He's not going to say all of that, but some of it he's going to say. I think he can.
Yeah.
He's going to say exactly word to word of what you just said.
Yeah.
I know. I can just hear it.
You got the connections to Eric Bieniemy with Travis Kelce, and then also remember what Ron Rivera did with Greg Olsen. So it's there. There's some connections.
Yeah, because they have Logan Thomas, and I'm not knocking Logan Thomas, but he's never been the guy that we need him to be. And it seems like he gets hurt, and they've had that situation in Washington where they get hurt with their tight ends. But I like it.
Zero has this as his profile pick. Not his profile pick.
Nice.
His Google wallpaper. You're a goat. You're a goat, Zero.
Love it. But yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? And part of me still thinks Washington, with the sell of Washington after the draft, and I don't know if it's going to be before the draft, but after the draft, I still think they have a chance of bringing in Lamar Jackson.
Ooh, and he likes tight ends, I heard.
Just what we hear.
That was one of my favorite memes I think Joe sent me was a picture of it was like Lamar Jackson being sacked, face was like almost in the dirt, and then the ball is being released from his hand, and it just said, fuck it.
Mark Andrews down there somewhere.
Like, I remember reading that. I had a couple drinks in my system. I dropped my phone. I was laughing hard. I was like, yeah, that's right. It does feel like that sometimes.
And Mark Andrews has his left foot tied to his left hand, and he still catches it with one arm over three guys.
Yeah. 1000%.
So the Steelers are on the board, guys. If you guys want to help Tony out, Tony has his Pittsburgh Steelers. Throw who you think the Pittsburgh Steelers would draft at this spot in the comment section. Help Tony out just a little bit.
I know who I'd pick.
Playing my fake keyboard over here. So I'm just scaling back here to see, and this is one of the reasons that thank you for putting that in there, Mike or Joe or for the chat, because I think that the heartstrings, I think this is the part where if Joey Porter Jr. is still on the board, I believe that that's who the Steelers are going to take, right? If they also know for a fact that they're going to be able to bring in an offensive lineman that they believe can be developed and good, because that's really what the problem is here. It's like the pick should be Darnell Wright. And the reason I was thinking about, I was going to try and trade up earlier, but then I was like, wait, we're already at pick 11 and Paris Johnson hasn't even gone off. And then tackles went back to back. And I was like, oh shit, maybe I waited too long. But I looked at the board and I was like, okay, no, probably not. No, I'm still going to have a shot at getting Darnell Wright in the spot. And Joey Porter Jr. is most likely, I think, going to be the pick. Like, it feels if he's there at 17, it's a slam dunk. But I'm going with the robot here. I'm going Darnell Wright. It should be Joey Porter Jr. You're right. It should be. But I just think that for them to take the next step, an offensive lineman doesn't just help Kenny Pickett. It's also going to help Najee Harris. And if you draft a running back in the first round, you can't just have him running behind one of the worst offensive lines for 2 years. You're wasting all of his good carries. Like, he has good football in him. So let's start bringing in the right pieces to play Steeler football, and that's the trenches. And it sucks, but I believe that's the pick.
No, I like the pick, and it's logical. It makes sense. It's just we want Joey Porter Jr. to go to the Steelers at 17 overall. It doesn't mean that's necessarily going to happen. And I think especially if Deonte Banks, who's the other guy who's kind of in the same tier as Porter Jr., if he's still on the board also, Pittsburgh's like, man, there's 2 corners on the board. Like, it's not even for sure that Joey Porter is ranked higher on their list than Banks is. I mean, we don't know. I'm just assuming that he is.
Well, I mean, I think they really are big on family and together. Like, they draft brothers. They brought Derek Watt there. They drafted Hayward's younger brother in like the 5th round when like a lot of people were thinking he might be undrafted just because he was a tweener. Is he a fullback? Is he a tight end? What is he like? They are big on, and that's part of the reason why they're so successful. And I do think that if he's there at 17 and they need a corner and he can play, we're bringing in somebody who knows the Steelers organization.
I like it.
Mike,
all right, Lions.
Back to back here, brother. You got 3 out of the next 4 picks, Mike.
No pressure. All right, the Lions are on the clock here, and I'm going to stop the madness. And while Lucas Van Ness might be their pick, he seems like a Detroit Lions guy. He might be their pick. He's a versatile D lineman. He can play inside and out. And the guy that I'm going to take cannot. But I think when you talk about styles, so can Aiden Hutchinson. And Aiden Hutchinson and Lucas Van Ness's styles overlap quite a bit. So I'm going to go with someone who is completely opposite maybe of Aiden Hutchinson and can start chasing these quarterbacks and running backs toward Aiden Hutchinson. Give me Nolan Smith out of Georgia here for the Lions at 18th. And this is a perfect now. They get Anthony Richardson, the fastest player on offense available, and they get Nolan Smith, the fastest D lineman available.
I really like this play for them a lot too. And I think the way he plays defense fits in nicely for what they want to do there, right? Like what Aaron Glenn wants to do. And having somebody that is going to get an opportunity to rush opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, right? Or line up next to James Houston, who's going to be able to run through, who's going to bull rush you, and then you're going to speed Nolan Smith around the edge.
That's what I'm saying. And I think that Nolan Smith's best fits in the league are these teams that already have one edge rusher and are looking for that second guy, because he's going to be someone that you can't outrun to the whatever side he's on, left or right side. You can't outrun this guy to the sideline. You can't outrun him, backwards or forwards or any direction. So you got to go the other direction. And if you got 2, it's over. And I think Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, Nolan Smith, man, they'd wreak havoc. There was a couple interesting things I heard on Nolan Smith, which is why I think he's going to go inside the top 15 somewhere. And
It's that he has position flexibility, right? Because you could play him off ball. Like you could use him the way that they use Micah Parsons, where he's sort of off the ball and then on all of a sudden now it's a passing down, and now we're sending him after the quarterback because he's so good, athletic, and can play so many different ways. But then also that like people keep looking at him as if like he's skinny or whatever, but he's very compact for his size. Like he's not 240 pounds, 6'6", where he's like all stretched out and gangly. Like that's brutal, Joker.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Yeah, for those listening to the audio only version, Joker comes in here all the time, bolt up, was in traffic for 4 hours. That's one of the perks of living in LA. I was late to this show. We had to push back an hour because I was in traffic for 2.5 hours today. Brutal.
Santo.
Brutal.
Try to do something nice. Try to surprise your wife. Bring her Thai food at work, and then I get 2.5 hour traffic jam.
Yeah, the football therapist is saying, like, is Houston ever going to make their damn pick, or are they just going to keep going back? I'm going to make the pick here, and I'm going to go with the TCU wide receiver, Quentin Johnston. I'm not his biggest fan either, Tony, as far as a first-round grade. When we started to talk about the 19th, 20th pick, I think it's worth it at that point with what his ceiling can be. I think there's some drop concerns with him. I need to do some more research on him, but I know there are definitely some route running concerns on him, and there's some parts of his game that he needs to develop a little further. But what he does with the football once it hits his hands is crazy. And you think about him, and if John Mechie can return to form that he was in Alabama, and what these guys are going to do in the yak department, and then going over the top with Chris Moore and Nico Collins, they've got some receivers here built for Caleb Williams next year.
Yeah, I like it. I think that now, like earlier I had mentioned tight end, I think this is another spot where it's like, hey, maybe if they really like John Mayer or Washington, that it's a spot that they could look at there. But getting Quentin Johnson in this spot it's a little different. The only problem I do have with them getting wide receiver, and even I keep mocking Jackson Smith and Jigma to them at their 12th pick or whatever, is that like, can Case Keenum even throw the ball that far anymore? Like, can he even really get the ball deep? You know, like I guess Davis Mills will be the guy that would start. But yeah, Houston. I
like the pick. You bring the local boy to Houston, and it's a good pick. Houston traded back down twice. Remember, this was the number 12 pick that now they moved all the way to 19 and took the wide receiver that they could have got at 12. So it's a good move, and they picked up extra picks just to move down. But yeah, I mean, I might have gone a different way, me personally, because of how the draft board is falling, and I'm looking at Lucas Van Ness there, and I could have walked away with two edge rushers, two of the top edge rushers, Will Anderson and Lucas Van Ness, and I'm like, whoa, damn. Maybe I would have done that, but they already took an edge rusher, so I understand. And then I saw something earlier, and it made me think, and I never thought about this until today, until I saw Cynthia Freeland talking about it, and I think it was her. And they were talking about the draft, and it was something that I never brought into my own conversation about the draft until I saw it today. But they were talking about the price of wide receivers and tight ends. And when you come to the draft, and if you like a tight end, if you have the same grade on a wide receiver and a tight end, now you're looking at draft money and how much you're actually saving on the salary cap, because a top wide receiver, they said, was like $10 million, and a top tight end is around $5 million. So you're actually saving more if you take the wide receiver than if you actually take the tight end. And that was nothing I ever thought. I never, like when you're doing mock drafts, you never go salary cap issue, like bring the salary cap into it. But now I understand it. So yeah, if you're going to take the wide receiver who's going to cost you more in the long run, you take the wide receiver over here and you hope another tight end later on.
It all makes sense. It all makes sense. I think that for my thing is the wide receivers in this entire class, I think there are many, many, many good ones. The problem is that they all need to find the perfect home. That's the only thing. Like, there's not one wide receiver that we all agree on is like, hey, doesn't matter. This is a fail-proof wide receiver. That's the only thing. People keep saying that this class doesn't have any wide receivers. There's like, I don't want the Chargers to take a wide receiver at 21. There's like 4 or 5 guys. If you just want speed you could go get speed in the 3rd round, 4th round. That's the bottom line. But I'm on the clock before this with the Seattle Seahawks. And while the Pittsburgh Steelers messed up, they should have got him, but they didn't. Remember back to the Legion of Boom when it was Richard Sherman on one side and Cam Chancellor, or like who was the Brandon Browner? Like who was the other corner where they just had 2 big corners and press their shit and beat up people. And so that is why I'm going to draft. He didn't get drafted, right?
Nope.
No, he did not. Joey Porter Jr. to the Seahawks right here.
Good pick.
Line him up opposite of Tariq Woolen. And now earlier in the draft, they went and got Jalen Carter. This defense is a problem for people.
Oh, yeah. If you go and look at what Seattle's doing, you should be scared. And if Geno Smith is their fail point next year, they could just go and get a different quarterback because this thing is going to be ready for anyone to just be plugged in there and take off. And people forget. They're getting Bobby Wagner back, basically, off of a year vacation. They're getting Jamal Adams back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Porter Jr. to the mix. What they got, they landed the pick on Tariq Woolen. Uchenna Nwosu had a breakout season. I mean, we're starting to stack up the really good defensive players on the Seattle defense, and the offense has been their strength the past 10 years.
They got the other corner, too, last year, Bryant, who gives them a little bit of flexibility to, like, hey, we might need nickel. We might need somebody to play safety in the deep part of the field. Mm-hmm. You know, like,
Quandre Diggs is on this team, too.
Exactly.
Holy smokes.
They're going to be, like, we might see Jamal Adams lining up a little bit more like linebacker. We might see him blitzing, like, a lot more. It's going to be – Seattle is going to be very good next year.
We might see him in the XFL. I mean, they don't need him.
And in the last mock draft, I had him taking Lucas Van Ness at number 5, and he's still on the board here. So you're telling me that at number 20 they had a choice between another defensive lineman or a defensive back? Yeah, and Pete Carroll's adding to that defense. They saw how horrible that defense was and cost them so many games last year. And they were still a competitive team, but their defense was what let them down so much. And to add Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Carter in this draft, you're like, yeah, and then you're exactly what football therapist said right here. It could be a top 5 defense if you continue to add all these players together.
And I think that in the later rounds, not in this round, with Seattle's other picks they have in this draft, they're going to be in the market to also add wide receiver and another edge rusher potentially. We'll see, man. I have high hopes for Seattle next year. Maybe they could be a team that surprises everybody again. They already surprised us once. Who's on the board right now? Oh, yeah.
Chargers! The Chargers are on the board.
I'm going to trade back again with the Chargers here. My mindset is here for the Chargers. If I was the GM, it'd be Dalton Kincaid or Bijan Robinson or trade back.
I have the dream trade that Joe has proposed to me, but it messed up. I messed up, Joe.
I figured you did.
Joe sent me a text message and said, hey, the Steelers have 32. They could trade back into the first round. And I should have traded. Steelers should have traded back in at 21 to get Joey Porter Jr., but I've messed it up.
And you took – you did.
And I took Joey Porter Jr., so now they have no real reason to trade back in. I mean, I'm sure that they could find a player they want, but no.
Well, anyways, I'm following the rumor mill here, and I'm trading with myself again. The rumor mill is, and I don't know if the Chargers would deal with this team because they're a team that we have to compete with to get to the Super Bowl, but the rumor mill is that Buffalo and Stephon Diggs are in a bad way, and that he might be on the team this year, but there is a exit coming, and if they don't plan for that exit, things could get really bad. I think that this guy has a similar skill set to Diggs. I'm not saying he's as good as Diggs. I think that he's potentially the best wide receiver in this draft. I'm like you guys. I have no clue. But I got the Bills swapping with the Chargers here for Zay Flowers. That's what I'm going with. You thought I was going to go Jordan Addison. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. I think that he gives them a little bit more down the field juice, and he's a starter on the team immediately in the slot with intentions to move out. I think that if Jordan Addison had that top end speed that Zay has, and I'm not saying it's a big gap, that would lean me Jordan Addison's way. I like both of them. They're both on the board here. And I think Buffalo would be interested in both. The Chargers probably would be interested in both too. I'm going to go with the Bills to take them, and I'll have the Chargers move back to 27 a little bit and recalibrate and see what they want to do, because I think that Dalton Kincaid or Bijan Robinson are my two favorites, and they both are gone.
You just pissed off Charger message boards all around the league saying, we want Zay Flowers on the Chargers. Now you're going to trade with Buffalo and give Buffalo another weapon. Charger fans are going to hate on you right now.
Chargers fans think that we need a wide receiver in the first round of this draft so bad, but what they don't realize is our wide receiver 1 right now was drafted in the 3rd round. Our wide receiver 2, or potential wide receiver 2 next year, if we lose Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, was drafted in the 3rd round. There's going to be guys that demand trades in the middle of the season and next offseason. Like, if the Chargers need wide receiver really bad next year, they can go and get wide receiver. But for this upcoming season, our GM's job is on the line. He's not drafting a guy that's not going to play immediately.
Yeah, and I do think that Zay Flowers could get a lot of snaps, could get a lot of reps, but when you are trying to add depth, is there that much of a difference between getting Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison or Josh Downs or Tank Dell or whatever? Like, I'm not sure that you can say without a doubt Zay Jones is this much better. And I really like Zay. And if he ends up on the team, I'm going to be excited about him. And I'm going to pump him up like he's going to be the next Antonio Brown, like people keep saying. But I don't know. I mean, it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, Mike. I do like the trade. I do think that Buffalo needs to come up, and we saw how Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie fell off towards the end of the year, and you needed somebody else. So I do think adding another speedster there would be a good spot for Buffalo. I just think that Charger fans, come on. This would be a great deal for the Chargers. Move back, because Chargers are, they have a pretty good team already. So just move back a couple spots and pick up some more draft capital for the future. And why we've been talking about the wide receiver class, where there's still good wide receivers on the board, even if you still want another wide receiver. Maybe Zay Flowers wasn't the guy you want, and there's other wide receivers that are going to be there at number 27.
Yeah, not even at 27, later on in the draft as well. And keep in mind, Chargers fans, if we want the Chargers to draft a running back, and I'm starting to really become a fan of some of these guys other than Bijan Robinson, if he goes where we think he's going to go, we're going to need the picks to do it. And, Buffalo moving up here to get a wide receiver, it's the 3rd or 4th wide receiver off the board. We're probably getting one extra pick at least, maybe 2, depending on how high they are. That could be one of the running back picks. There's a guy out of Illinois. I want to say his first name's Chase, last name Brown. Just a dynamic running back. Reminds me so much of a Aaron Jones, but a little bit bigger. And Jamari Gibbs.
Yeah, Chase Jones, I think Illinois, right?
Yeah, Illinois. And then there's another one who kind of fits Eckler's skill set, maybe a little bit less power. He has an engine, so maybe that will come out as he, gets his footing in the NFL. What's his name? I think he's out of Tulane. Spears.
Yeah, Tajee Spears.
Yeah, these guys are mid-draft picks, not mid-first round picks or mid-second round picks, mid-draft picks that could be there for the Chargers.
Yeah, there is. I just think that they've tried this, Mike. We've seen it. I mean, granted, they've taken deeper shots on running back. I just think let's just get it over with. Just go get Bijan. If you're not going to pay Eckler, which is what I want them to do, ultimately, I want Eckler to be a Charger. 2, I want him to get paid. But if you're not going to do those 2 things, then go get Bijan.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have drafted him with the Patriots pick.
No, because
Tony.
Actually, I just got the 27th pick, Tony. Would you like to trade me Ramondre Stevenson for it?
I would not like to do that. Joe, you are on clock with the Baltimore Ravens.
So I'm sitting here with the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm wondering what I'm going to do. And Baltimore Ravens, you're still worried about what Lamar Jackson. You just brought in Odell Beckham Jr. There's a couple spots I can go. I thought about it where I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to be the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm making a trade. I'm making a trade right here because Baltimore does stuff like this, and they always throw us off. And Baltimore is making a trade with their favorite trade partner, the guy that they always compete against and always help out, with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are moving up right here, Tony, and they're saying, you know what? Last year we took George Karlaftis, and now we're adding another one to him, and we're adding Lucas Van Ness to the other side.
Ooh.
I hate that.
So Baltimore helps out the team that they battle against again right here as Kansas City moves up from 31 to 22 for Lucas Van Ness.
Baltimore, I like this. I was not paying attention fully to all of it. Wait, hold on a second. Are you kidding me?
That's what I'm saying too. He just had the Chiefs come up and take Lucas Van Ness at 22. That's an absolute steal for that guy.
That's what I'm telling you. Andy Reid's sitting there going, hey, this guy's fallen. There ain't no way we're adding them to the other side. We're bringing them in. And that's what I'm saying.
I think they moved and got Karlaftis last year. Or did they get McDuffie and then Karlaftis? I don't remember, but whatever it was. Karlaftis was much better than people gave him credit for. And I think.
And what pick was Karlaftis? Was he at? 22. And what pick did Lucas Van Ness go? 22.
I'm with it. I'm with it.
Made that up.
I think it's a good pick. I cheer nothing for the Chiefs, so I hope that they reach. I hope they reach on somebody who's unproven. What does he say?
Oh, he's saying that the Chargers wide receivers are aging and there are injury concerns.
But what?
They're playing this year. That's the point, football therapists, and there's going to be 10 more receivers available next year. And I keep telling everyone, like, if the Chargers are this desperate at wide receiver and they know they're going to lose Mike Williams next offseason, Keenan Allen is going to have to stay, and he's going to have to restructure that deal or sign a new deal completely. The Chargers will be in the market to trade for a wide receiver that becomes available.
My thing is yes, it would be great to have Zay Flowers, but if it's going to cost you a first-round pick, I would rather use that first-round pick on another, like, honestly, on an edge rusher who can give you snaps year one, and go in the third round and get Tyler Scott, or fourth round, or wherever he is, the wide receiver from Cincinnati. Get Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. Go get my guy Matt Landers from Arkansas, who's 6'4", ran a 4.37. If you're just looking for speed, go get one of these guys that can fly. If that's all you're looking for as a weapon, get Jaden Reed from Michigan State. He's a guy that I really like. He can fly. He also has kick return skills. Like, they're going to need to get a couple wide receivers, and we don't have a kick returner because he deserted us and went to the Raiders.
We got the best quarterback for Jalen Hyatt.
There it is.
Just throw that thing as far as you can, and I'll run under it.
Jalen Hyatt's falling into the second round. Maybe wait and go get him. Trade up a couple of spots and get him in the second round if you love. All right, Minnesota Vikings are on the clock here. Casey Wilson.
He's a Vikings fan. He's a Vikings fan too, so no problem.
He nailed it, bro. This is who I'm taking. Jordan Addison in the slot. I think there's Jordan Addison's my favorite wide receiver. Like, maybe not. He's not my favorite. That's the wrong word, because I definitely like Flowers and Dell and Matt Landers and some of these other guys more. Like, they're more fun to me. But he's, I think, the safest player. When I look at all of them, I'm like, this guy's going to play 8 years, if healthy, right? Obviously, you just take health, 8 to 10 years, and he's going to put up very solid numbers. Wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, right? Like, one of the guys I was talking about was like, can he be Deontay Johnson? Right, Mike? We talked about that. Like, can he be somebody that's like gets open constantly, and he doesn't even need to be a number 1 because he's playing with Justin Jefferson. He can play in the slot. When you want to move Jefferson into the slot, great. Now Addison can still win on the outside. He's still quick enough that I know that every time somebody talks about these, they go, can he beat press at 173? He beat it in college. I'm sure he'll figure out a way to beat it in the pros too. Like, there's a reason he won the Biletnikoff Award, like, as the best wide receiver in college football at one point. Like, he's going to be just fine. This is a great pick for the Vikings here. I thought about going Deontay Banks, but I left him for Mike and the Jaguars because they need a cornerback.
And here's what I like about that pick, Tony, is he creates separation. He's very good at creating separation. And maybe, he doesn't have the typical size that you want, but you put him on the other side of Justin Jefferson where they're probably going to double team Justin Jefferson. So now you leave him one-on-one, and he's going to create that separation. He's going to do what they were thinking Adam Thielen could do last year, but, everybody says that Thielen maybe might have lost a step a little bit. So I think this is a great addition to take the spot of Thielen. So I like it.
Yeah, and KJ Osborne, I believe, is year 3 or maybe the final year of his deal there. He's shown signs of being a playmaker for them too. Football therapists, we're going to have to continue this conversation another time because this is I just confused so much of what he's saying.
Did Keenan Allen make an announcement he's retiring or something this year? Like, what does he mean this is Allen in his last year? What is he talking about?
Well, he also contradicted himself about something right before that, so I don't know.
And I know Mike Williams is injury-prone football therapist, but the sad, unfortunate fact is we signed him to $20 million, so we got to hope to God he's healthy. There's no other way around it but prayers. I think, man, there's a guy I like to the Jaguars that I think is a perfect fit. And he isn't going to go here if Deonte Banks is on the board. So I'm going to take Banks. I think they need corner enough to where they just go ahead and don't even think about it, and they take him. But a guy that I think he's better than Breesy, and I think that he's a better overall player than Mozzie Smith. And I don't know if teams are paying attention to him, is Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin.
From Wisconsin?
He's super dynamic. I feel like he does really well in pass rush and run defense, but and he has the highest motor of some of these D tackles other than Jalen Carter in this draft. But like you're saying, Tony, if Banks is there, this guy can play outside and inside. This guy has really good technique. He's just well put together at corner. He has the speed to keep up with the fast receivers. He's a little undersized, but if you go and put on his tape when he faces big receivers, he holds up. He's really good at the line of scrimmage, really good footwork. I'm a big fan of his game. I don't know if he's ever going to be like this top 5 or top 10 or this elite corner that everyone knows, but he's going to be a steady starter for his entire career, his entire 10-year, 12-year, however long career he has.
Yep. I like that you shouted out Keanu Benton too. He falls into my Derek Hall bucket where it's like, oh man, if the Chargers could get one of these guys to add to the defense rotation in the second round, I'd be ecstatic.
His motor is impressive. There was one of the games that I watched late in the game, and even the person that was doing the breakdown on him mentioned it. Like, it's crazy that this guy has this much juice at his size late into the fourth quarter, and he's 3 down. He's not coming off the field.
I think he could be in this draft, right? Like, I could draft him with the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I won't, because Cowboys fans will be like, who the fuck is this guy? But I think that he could be. He could find his way to the Saints, like to one of these teams where I think that all of their scouts are looking at him and going, hey, do we want Mozzie Smith, who's going to play 2 downs for us? Or do we want this guy that is a potential double-digit sacks and making Pro Bowls every year?
Therapist, you're not a Chargers expert. That's all I'm going to say. Since we looked at the trade in this offseason, when they said loudly into multiple microphones, we have no interest in trading Keenan Allen. We want him to retire a Charger, like 20 times. Tom Telesco said, I don't care what we have to do. He's our Charlie Joyner. We want him on the team until he retires. And Football Therapist is like, yeah, but they were looking to trade him. What?
There's not one legitimate report, and then they gave him it's not. We don't need to have this argument because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I got the next pick with the New York Football Giants. I'm not gonna sit around. And make you guys wait and think about who I'm gonna take. Everybody knows the New York Giants need a wide receiver, but we've seen a lot of wide receivers off the board already. I think the Giants sit here and they go safety Branch right here to solidify their defense. Get a great tackler to go along with that defense and help out a little bit. So I'm going with Branch from Alabama right here at number 25 with the New York Football.
That's a great pick because I think that they're tempted by wide receiver also, but if the right guy isn't falling, I don't know if they're necessarily going to just pull the trigger immediately on wide receiver. They know that the strength of this team is in the backfield. It's not necessarily going to be out wide, even if they did draft a wide receiver. So why not improve the defense even a little more? And Julian Love and Brian Branch. That's a good little safety combo right there.
Well, Love is gone.
Oh, he left. Where's he at?
Seattle, right?
Another one. Huh? Just keep piling him on.
They'll have I think McKinney would stay on the field.
Yeah, he's a beast.
And then you have McKinney with adding him, so that's what I like. So, Dallas fans, Dallas Cowboy fans, you're in the house. You're on the board right now with Tony Tucker. Help Tony.
Put it on the board, yes. So I wrote down that, like, if I was drafting for the Cowboys, that I liked D-line. Potentially, if there was a certain wide receiver that was still here, I would take him. Running back. I'm not taking a running back for him right here. D-line, both the D linemen that I liked. No, not going to happen. So I'm looking at it, and it's like, and I know that this guy probably gets mocked to them all the time, probably everything. But Jason Witten 2.0 is Michael Mayer. Like, they have similar style games. He'll have a 10, 12-year career, and he will be loved by Jerry. Like, he'll just be such a good player. They want to run. They talked about running the football more, right? That was what McCarthy said, even though Joe and I do not believe they will run the football more. But it'll be Michael Mayer will be the pick in this spot right here. Oh, it's 2-0 wanted.
Yeah, there you go.
There Cowboys fans rejoice. There it is. I
think that's who I took last time with them as well. Like you said, it's just a good fit right there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Mike can you guys make my last pick? Because I really need to go. Can somebody pick for the Saints for me?
Of course.
Okay. I want to see what Mike does here with the Chargers, and then I really need to run.
Well, I'm in a tough spot here. A very tough spot here because I was going to take Michael Mayer. I should have looked at Dallas right there and been like, Tony's probably going to do it. But I was hoping that you would be a little different today and let me get him.
Well, Darnell Washington is who I want the Chargers to get, but I don't expect you to take back-to-back tight ends here.
You know what's crazy, Tony?
What?
I'm about to give this long, drawn-out take about Mozzie Smith, this long, drawn-out take about Brian Breesy, and I think I would just draft Washington also. So that's
I love it.
So,
I love it.
I was about to go on Gibbs. I was looking at Gibbs. Like, it's just none of these guys are worth the shot. The highest ceiling player, in my opinion, available for our specific team is Darnell Washington. Because look at what they do with Donald Parham in the passing game. Let's say Washington doesn't ever develop into this crazy pass catcher, and he's just Donald Parham as a pass catcher. What he brings to help our rushing attack is probably more than any running back could bring that's available.
Yeah. Okay. So there's been comps, and I agree with you. There's been comps of him where they go, oh, he's essentially Mercedes Lewis. Oh, you mean a guy who's been productive everywhere he's been for 18 years in the NFL? Like,
set a record.
And I get it's a first-round pick, but it's the end of the first round. I do think that there's extra athleticism to him. There's untapped potential. And if you go watch the Brett Coleman breakdown of the way that they show the Dallas using their tight ends in the run game, and the things that they can do off of them in the pass game, why not? Why not give him a shot? Like, bring him into the room. I'm a big fan. Like I said, he's my number one tight end from this class. I know Dalton Kincaid offers something extra and special, but it needs to be in the right system for that to happen. I actually think Washington is perfect, Joe. It's a great pick there. But Mike, excellent. I'm all for it.
I worked super hard on that one by getting sniped 3 times or so, but it's all right. You know who else is getting sniped in this situation? The Bengals, and that makes me happy. Joe Burrow's probably put out his cigar and started screaming at his phone. He's like, what the hell? I thought that all the tight ends will be here at this spot, and now they're all gone.
I think that the Bengals are – I think they're certain, like the Bengals are one of those sneaky teams that are trading up into the 20s. I think the Bengals are one of those teams that's moving up to get their guy. Yes, 0. Gentlemen, Mike, Joe, this has been fun. Have a great, safe weekend.
Yeah, football therapist. I was tempted to go receiver here.
Good weapon to get. But he's not the speed that we need. That's why we get Tank Dell in the second round. See you, gentlemen.
Tank Dell, second round. Let's do it. Joe, Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, what's happening?
I don't know what happened.
All right, we're back. Cincinnati Bengals. Let's finish this thing off strong.
Yeah, so Cincinnati would be on the clock. I was looking at tight end I'm not to lie right there. I don't know if I would have took. I do like Washington just like you guys do, so there's no lie there. And it is they brought in Irv Smith Jr. and that's their tight end right now, which I do like Irv Smith. I think injuries derailed him a little bit in Minnesota, and I'm looking around and I'm like, who else could they take? What else could they take? And this is why I took Branch earlier with the New York Giants because I thought maybe he could be a spot where Cincinnati would take him. So I thought maybe that's why they would take him. So I'm looking around and I'm like, who else could they go? They've already tried to fix their offensive line. Maybe they go wide receiver because they know with the contracts coming up with all those guys, they have to go. It's a tough pick. It's a tough situation for him. And like you said, you just took my tight end. And there's so many tight ends in this draft. So just because we've already taken 3, somebody said 3 first-round tight ends. Well, if you're listening, there's so many. There's a lot of good starting tight ends out there. And I'm looking at Musgrave right now because of his massive frame and what he can do. He's 6'6". If you take Luke Musgrave, the tight end out of Oregon State, he's 6'6". Mike, 6'6" guy that can go out there and turn it, and he has top speed. Like if you put a linebacker on Luke Musgrave, I think, and with Joe Burrow and those wide receivers, I think that's a big mismatch. So I think I'm going with the 4th tight end. I think we're on a run right here with tight ends, and I'm taking Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy that if the Chargers don't get a tight end here, and I was thinking about going with Jalen Hyatt and Gibbs, so I think it could be a multitude of picks if they do trade back. But Musgrave is a guy in the second round the Chargers could be looking at also just because of his skill set. I feel like Dalton Kincaid, Darnell Washington, and Musgrave are our best fits. 0 wanted Cam Smith. I think that they would go with Breesy or Mozzie Smith, one of those two. But screw it. Tight end number 4.
Why not make it fun? If everybody's talking about how good this tight end draft is, why not make it fun and let's throw some tight ends in the first round?
But that makes it easier for the
New Orleans Saints, which have been Tony's pick, is on the board. So help us out. Everybody who's remaining in the chat, help us out right here. This is where we go to you guys. We're going to turn this pick over to them, Mike. Let's let them make the pick for the New Orleans Saints.
All right, yeah. Go ahead. Hop in the chat. Let us know who to pick. I got the guy on my mind that they would take. Let me know who you think they will take.
Now, 0. Remember, the needs are guard, center, defensive line, cornerback. So there's a lot of needs out there. I think last time I had the Saints trade up and trade for Joey Porter Jr. in that. Mike, who would you take in this situation?
Osiris Torrance. But the Saints also need, the Saints also need, Joe? A tight end.
Yeah. I like Juwan Johnson down there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna hate on him. I think they could go. Who I would like in this situation is like a Miles Murphy or a Will McDonald, the defensive end. I would like one of those two. I even think what'd you say, Breesy from Clemson, the defensive tackle, would be in there. I think defense might be their spot here. I don't know who else do they, because I think they're good. I mean, their offensive line is good enough where they can get away with it for one more. But if they took Torrance here, I wouldn't be upset with it.
That's what I think they'd take if everyone is here. Therapist saying Miles Murphy, that makes a lot of sense. He could be there with Cam Jordan in the twilight years of his.
I like that pick, Mike. I like the Miles Murphy or the Torrance. So who you guys taking, Miles Murphy or Torrance? Let's just throw that out there. We'll put those two out there, and you guys pick. So let's go. Which one, guys?
Well, we got 1 vote for Murphy already and 0 votes for Torrance. Anyone got some love for the offensive guard, Cyrus Torrance, out of Clemson, right? Yeah, Clemson.
Ooh, Torrance is out of Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
I'm tripping. There you go. We got to vote for him.
Murphy. There we go. So there we go. We got Murphy, Torrance. Which one, Mike? Which one are we leaning towards? So how long should we give him?
Murphy's got the most votes right now.
So, all right. In the interest of time, we're going to go with Murphy.
Miles Murphy.
It's a good move. And at the beginning of these draft process, Miles Murphy, Mike, was up there as a top 10 pick.
He was, yes. I think that there's some polishing that needs to go on in his game, and he doesn't dominate like some of these other edge rushers do on some plays, but he's very well rounded. That's kind of hard to find in this draft. Usually these guys have like one solid strength that's making them a first round pick, but he's kind of well rounded compared to having that one superpower. Like what you might see where Tyree Wilson's bull rush is insane, or Lucas Van Ness is versatile. He can play inside on the D line, and some of these other edge rushers as well. Will Anderson, I guess, is pretty well rounded though, but he's number one. He's not even really in the conversation with everyone else.
So now,
this is it right here. We got Philly 3 tight ends, and this is the dream situation for Philly, other than if they would have just drafted Bijan at number 10. I think Jamari Gibbs in this offense is such a perfect fit that at the end of the first round, if Philly is there and he is still there, which I think he will be for sure, they don't let him slide into the second. This is basically a second round pick. But they don't let him slide into the second round and give it a day 2 shot that someone comes up and gets him. We saw all the running backs go at this spot last year. Breece Hall, Ken Walker, Dameon Pierce, all of them went right here. And this little first to second round transition. So I'm going to go with Gibbs to the Eagles. This is a great fit. This guy could be the next Jamal Charles. And now you put him behind that O-line. You give him that much space to run the football. He is going to pull away from some guys.
They're going to be like, they got Rashad Penny in there. But, yeah, it was only a 1-year deal with Penny coming in. And now you add another running back. And I thought about taking Robinson earlier when I had the Philly pick at number 10. But when you have a Christian Gonzalez on the board, you're not going to go wrong with them. So they could have took running back at number 10, and you walk away with Gibbs and Gonzalez in the first round. I think Philadelphia fans should be excited about that, right? I like your pick of Gibbs, and some people are saying, that he was underused and maybe not being looked at as much as he should be in this draft. But come on, he's from Alabama, and Alabama running backs do pretty damn good in the NFL. A lot of people are just worried about his 5'10", is it 5'10" or 5'9", whatever it is. That's how tall he is. But I think he gets in an NFL program, add a little bit of muscle on him. He's going to be a very good running back.
Yeah, and the thing that got me the most with him is that he's so fast. I think he ran a 4.3, so it's not like the fastest of all time, but super fast. But it's his acceleration is what's crazy, and he will let guys in open space get close to him to make them think that they're about to make the tackle and accelerate away as a move. He uses the acceleration as a move to make people miss. That's when running backs get to that next level. That's when you start to get to what Breece Hall was doing last year, to what Saquon Barkley does when you close the distance on him and then you realize the man was jogging and he takes off on you.
And a lot of people say Eagles need another wide receiver to go along with the 2 that they already have. Add a third one. Well, guess what? Gibbs can catch the damn ball, and he can come out there and he can catch out of that backfield, and that's another weapon that you have right there. So I like it, Mike. It's a really good pick right now. Remember, okay, so now I'm on the board with Baltimore. Remember, Baltimore traded up. This is a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs right here. So when I made this trade, there's a lot of things that Baltimore could do. And I think somebody just listed it. What was it? All the needs that they put right there in the chat, Mike?
Wide receiver, DT, tight end, RB, QB. So everything.
Just like
we need everything. We lost Lamar, so we need everything.
And there's some good players still on the board. And this is, I think, this is where you would love to be drafted or love to see teams come up out of the second round into this spot. And Baltimore traded back for a reason, because they know how much depth is right here in this spot. So, and Baltimore loves to make picks towards the end of the draft, and they usually do a pretty good job. And Are they happy? Do they have Lamar Jackson here? Like, could this be where another quarterback goes? Right, as you took a quarterback for them in our last draft.
Hendon Hooker, man.
Oh man,
Hendon Hooker. The thing is what's going to stop them from drafting Hooker is that if we go into the draft with Lamar's situation like still on hold, which I assume it will be, if you draft Hendon Hooker and then Lamar resigns, you just wasted a first-round pick.
Yeah, and that's.
I think they like to. They just always are eyeing defensive linemen here. Brian Breesy's still there. I think that they would be interested in Will McDonald. Mozzie Smith is someone that kind of his size and his body and everything doesn't match to Calais Campbell type, but what his role is an anchor in the middle of your defense. The Ravens value that a ton. I think that he could be a pick. And then another guy that might be an underrated pick here is a guy. It's hard to say his name. He's out of Northwestern. He's an edge/interior defensive lineman. He does both. That's why I think the Ravens will like him. I'm gonna try it. Adetomiwa Adebowore.
You did better than I would say.
AA. We're calling him the AA. You can't see me. Attitude adjustment off the top rope.
Yeah, not like it, but I think, man, it's tough for me because Baltimore always kind of surprises me with their picks. So it's kind of like I could just go with it, but I'm just gonna go with Brian Breesy right here. Why not? You went back, and I was gonna try to like make a different selection, but why not go with him?
It's fair. It's a fair pick. He's supposed to be a first-round pick, and if he falls to the second round, I think it would surprise me a little bit. Maybe where one of these 4 tight ends went is where Breesy ends up going.
Yeah, and I like McDonald. I really do, and I think you and Tony know how much I like McDonald. So I like him in that spot, but I'm not going to take him right here with Baltimore.
There we go. Breesy's in.
Yeah, and
just get RB. I can't trust Bateman. RB. Bateman's a receiver, though.
See, the only other pick that I thought about taking is like Cam Smith. I almost took a cornerback right here because they were in the running and for getting what's his name, the cornerback that went back to the Eagles. They were trying to get him, so it was a good pick. So, but with 32 with the Steelers on the clock, I don't think they're going to let a big defensive tackle follow the Steelers right here. So I think they came up and they'll make the pick. So I think it's a good pick. I like the pick for me.
There we go. We got our mock draft 2.0. Lots of tight ends, a couple running backs, lots of quarterbacks, lots of D linemen.
But it wouldn't shock me if somebody else moved up into the spot and Baltimore moved back out and completely out of the first round.
Well, if they're eyeing receiver or they're eyeing running back, yeah, you'd think so. This isn't, the value isn't there at those positions right now.
They could just continue to add more picks, especially if they really truly believe that they're not going to get Lamar Jackson back. They're going to take a big hit at that quarterback spot. They could build other spots and get more draft picks.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I feel like the Jalen Hyatt is going to slide a ton, and I think it's going to be a team that has a quarterback that already has a big arm. If they don't feel like their quarterback can throw the ball 60, 65 yards, Jalen Hyatt is going to struggle in the short and medium yardage. He's going to get pushed around, especially his first couple years unless he puts on some muscle. So, yeah, I agree with therapists here. There's no wide receivers left to draft. So, Baltimore
this is a completely different draft. If you're looking at this one compared to our one from last week, it's a completely different the way it went. And it's a lot. I mean, that's the good thing about mock drafts is, I mean, I think we had maybe one tight end go last week. We had 4 go. This week we had a lot of wide receivers go last. I think we had more wide receivers go last week than we had this week. We have another running back that entered the conversation in this week as 2 running backs go. So it's as you can tell that as we put more time into it and we see more stuff and we're only 10 days away. What are we at? Today's the 14th, so we're 2 weeks away. Less than 2 weeks away from the actual NFL draft itself. You're starting to see more news and notes come out against these guys and what teams are starting to think more. and a little bit more surprising. And there's more. We did a lot more trades in this one than we did last week.
Yeah, and for our last mock draft, everybody, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Helps out by liking the video. Helps out a ton in the algorithm. But for our last one, we're going to do our predictions, where each of us go ahead and predict where we think it's going to go and see who's more accurate. So that's going to be a ton of fun. This is more of like a, if I was the GM in the draft and all this trading and all this stuff is going on, what do you do? You know, right? You're pivoting multiple different directions. But I think that once we do our mock draft and we see, you know, we're going for accuracy more than anything, you'll have a picture to paint at that point when we're, you know, a couple days out.
I think I won last year.
I think you did. Yeah.
So, I mean, but it was just because we were all over the Houston one, and I was very correct with Houston last year. But this one just seems like it's all over the place right now. Like none of these experts are like Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport can get a grasp on what's happening at number 2. Everybody believes Bryce Young's going number 1, but it hasn't came out and said this is who it is. Like it's weird, but we'll find out. I think by the next week, when we do this next week, we'll know for sure a little bit more of at least the top 2, top 3.
I'm with it. Let's do it. All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to wrap it up here. 2-hour live. Please help us out. Again, I know I said it 2 seconds ago. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so that way you can be here next time we go live. It could be some random time during the week because we want to react to the news that's been breaking on the Ravens and all this other stuff that's going on. Buda Baker just managed a trade today. There's a bunch of stuff. I'm about to had something going on there. Well, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Joe, anything else?
If you are listening to the podcast version, head on over to our YouTube channel, MJT Football. Subscribe there. You can watch us, like our videos. We do a lot more on there. So if you guys are listening to the podcast version, come on over to YouTube.
And if you're listening to the YouTube version, thank you. We'll see you guys next week on Mock Draft 3.0.